You've not this matters. You've misaligned the buttons.
Have I?
Yeah.
No.
You probably wouldn't be able to tell though.
No, I haven't. I have.
Yeah.
I actually have.
On this week's GTA 6 o'clock, how will character selection work?
Do you want to play Jason Lucia, Jason and Lucia, or generic Bozo 6?
32-player GTA Online confirmed.
While these top secret documents weren't read out, they were listed in the court transcript as revealed by Chris Pratt.
And the Fairyland Forest.
Literally the global capital of theme parks and adventure places. And
it's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock. Hello and welcome to episode 107 of GTA 6 o'clock, the world's most in-depth and best connected GTA 6 show. I am your host, James JJ Jarvis. This is Dan Dawkins, and the countdown continues. 43 weeks or 302 days to go until the release of GTA 6. We are about to have an explosive conversation, which might be out of character, but please don't question it. Excited about that, Dan? That was some foreshadowing I did.
It felt suspicious, and I feel like I'm about to find out what it means.
Yes, as mentioned last week, let's get this out of the way at the top of the show. Take Two earnings call is coming on Tuesday, February the 3rd at around 9:30 p.m. GMT, which is 4:30 ET, 1:30 PT. That is less than 2 weeks away, or just one more episode to go. Oh. We're not expecting much from this, though, right? We're expecting a no news is good news.
I think the best scenario for us is no news is good news.
Well, that's not the best scenario, is it?
Well, the best scenario is trailer 3 and loads of assets and a cast iron confirmation that's coming out on the date. If not earlier, we've brought it forward. Think about that.
Yeah.
But I think given everything, the best scenario is no news is good news right now.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, let's get into one of those topics that we mentioned at the top of the show then. And this is something that we actually mentioned last week when we were discussing those new details. And I think we did caveat it at the time, but we will say again, we know they're not new details. They were just a re-emergence of the details because it looked like they were seemingly confirmed in a roundabout way, but still might not be real. But we had covered them before in a previous show.
Yes.
So they weren't new. We had talked about them. Anyway, one of those details was about the character select wheel. People wanted us to talk about that last week, and we sort of skimmed over it in a way as we did because we couldn't cover all 20 points. Sitting by the River on YouTube actually commented and said, I feel like you guys could have spoken more on the potential of controlling Jason and Lucia together. There were a number of possibilities there, and it would have been interesting to hear your take on it. So let's do that. Our take on the character select wheel. Firstly, what do you think this is going to look like, I guess, Dan, from a design point of view?
How do I definitively think it looks? I don't know. Like, what I do think is there's different, I guess, proven models for doing something like this. And let's examine the scenario where, like we said, you control both characters simultaneously. I'm going to rule out the wacky option of you control one with the stick and the other with the buttons or something.
Yes.
Now, that's sort of like novelty disco version. That does not seem viable. The options I would say are more viable are almost like a degree of automated switching, where at key moments you flip from one character to another, where you play through the mission, flipping between the two perspectives. I guess versus the alternative then would be you just play as one character's view. I think that's potentially
throughout the whole game.
Yeah, throughout the game or throughout the whole mission.
Yeah, right. You pick who you're going to be the lead.
Yeah,
with, basically.
This is speculative, right? But I'm just saying you could, in theory, have a mission where you go, I'm going to see this one just through Jason's eyes. I'm going to see this one just through Lucia's eyes, or both, and get an even-handed view. What will be the point of that? I guess the point of it might be as if, like we've talked about, there's something unique to each character's perspective, and maybe they see different pieces of the puzzle the other don't, which affects the level of trust between them, which, as we talked about, is potentially a tangible mechanic and seems to be more woven into the entire story of the tale. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm saying it's a scenario.
Yeah. And I guess, or from a very basic level, they could just be different ways to approach that in terms of gameplay. Like Jason could be going off, have a massive gunfight and come back around to meet Lucia, who's snuck through one of the facilities or something. And you can either choose to do that bit stealthy and hear all the ruckus that's going on over there and be like, oh, I wonder what that was like. And that would be what you'd see if you played as Jason. Obviously, there are layers to that, like you say, where it could end up being you get different bits of information about the story or different characters like turn up and go away. And then it's like you do start to build a bigger picture. But I think from a pure, even just gameplay level, it could just be different ways of approaching that. Much like when we did heists in GTA 5 and you chose loud or quiet.
Yeah, and it would tie into potentially another part of the leaks where they talked about, for example, Jason's Deadeye ability and Lucia's got different abilities. Let's say hers was like, it's lockpicking, it's something else. You might do more of that, and it's sort of choosing, I want to go stealthier, I want to go louder. Maybe if you flip both, it's a bit of both. And even there's even a way, that's one way to do it, right? And I don't know whether that's the direction they'll go. Another way they could do it potentially is to have you almost like lead with one character. That's the host body. And then you can almost do direct management of where the other character goes. And I'm trying to think of that in my mind. I'm thinking on the fly of games that have done this. But do you know the type of thing where you'll sort of go over there and like notion the right stick towards it or something? Or have like very basic, almost like a character command wheel. I think that's the way other games have done it. I'm not sure if I'm thinking of Mass Effect or other games here. And, again, I'm thinking on the fly, so I might be getting this wrong.
I mean, you definitely do it in Fortnite. When you hire a person, you can be like, attack that person, follow me, come over here, stop, revive me, please. Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And even at a crudest, it's a terrible example, even in a game like a FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer as it used to be, you could auto prompt your teammates to make runs. Mm-hmm. This isn't like that. They're not going to be playing football together. But the idea is that you could use a limited control set to sort of send the other character off to do things, creates the illusion of control. And it's up for the game then to kind of make you feel clever for the things you chose to do. There's two of the more obvious ways it could work for me. Like, do you think there's another way they could do it? Or of the options we've talked about, are there any you prefer?
No, I think that's a sensible way of doing it. I guess the question for me would be, I get having control of Jason or Lucia. The option of like both feels like slightly redundant, especially if you're choosing Jason or Lucia, but the other one is coming anyway. What does the option of having both mean? Because in GTA 5, we could easily swap between characters during missions.
Yeah.
By just, I want to control Trevor. Yeah. Press down, weapons, character select wheel, go over there, changes to him. Like, I don't see how that is different than saying, unless, like you say, it is locking out that perspective or the choice of you being able to do it during the mission. Yeah. But then why wouldn't you just always choose both? So you could have the choice. Like, I don't know why it would be there.
I guess the way you would, it's so hypothetical. If you were trying to incentivize that, like I guess this is the way I would think about designing it, is like, if the story's all about trust and there's a sense of one of them not believing the other story, you could have a mission where you go, all right, I'm a bit suspicious of Jason right now, and I know he's going to meet this character I'm not sure about, so I want to see everything through this part of the story through Jason's eyes. Where maybe if they did like the both approach, it's almost like you miss vital bits of information on both sides versus another approach where you get full information, but just from one character's perspective. Like, that's so complicated to design, and maybe too wild. It's like a sort of Heavy Rain, but twin to the most ambitious open world game ever. It's not impossible, but that's the one way you might incentivize that type of behavior. Or it's as simple as you want to play, like you said, you want to play a certain way or have access to certain abilities or certain, whatever the sort of things that each character can or can't do. But again, that feels, the differences between Michael, Franklin, and Trevor weren't really that vast. I didn't feel.
Not when you're doing like a mission.
No.
Really. Like, they're all quite good at shooting guns.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Mechanically, there wasn't a tremendous difference. It wasn't like an RPG where you're making a really
Yeah, well,
hard
one of them had
choice.
like no armor and would die a lot.
Like
It's not that
magic
kind of-
versus barbarian or something. It
Yeah.
isn't that stark. I mean, it was a slight difference. So I think mechanically, I'm not sure. It's more interesting if it's for the story. Or I guess the other element we haven't really talked about is it's a thing they've built in because ? What if the entire game was playable as like drop in, drop out co-op? Which I don't know. That's almost like that's a question in itself. Like, do you think that's like, well, I guess A, viable, and B, something you would actually want?
It would definitely shake up the formula for a GTA game. First GTA game ever that's now got co-op in it. I don't see that being couch co-op. I don't think you could sit there with, anyone at your house or partner or whatever, and one of you plays one and one of you plays the other like a split screen. I don't feel like that's gonna work.
Doesn't feel very GTA to go split screen, does it?
No. So then we're talking about online drop in, drop out multiplayer, which I guess you selecting that Jason and Lucia option, let's say it's in there, opens that up to anyone to be able to join your game. And if they don't join your game, you've got an AI companion who's doing that work for you. It kind of happens a bit in GTA Online lobbies right now, where you can select a mission you want to go on and open that lobby up to like, you need 4 players. Otherwise, you're doing it on your own. Open it up. People can jump into your game. I guess the issue with that is that sometimes people don't jump into your game, or if people do jump into your game, they've already played that mission and they're basically just rushing through it to like get to the end. And in GTA Online, they're doing that because you get RP and money for finishing it. So you want to finish it as quickly as possible so you can move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
In a story-based mission, it's hard. Like, especially if you're, it just opens everything up to being like you're an uncontrollable third party who could just run off and not do the bit that you want them to do.
Yes.
I think that'd be quite frustrating. So I don't know how you balance that to be like, to stop people, messing about or messing up with your game when you're trying to enjoy what is essentially a single player story experience. And you've got someone going, I'm going to run off to the beach and, attack a crocodile. And you're like, can we not just go over here where we're meant to go, please?
It feels like the two things are at odds, having this like amazing open world, go anywhere, do anything option versus what are the big, and there's a world where you go, it's a drop in, drop out co-op campaign, ? With all the things you've said, make it difficult, or there's a completely separate mode that can only be played in co-op with 2 people committing to it. That's quite extreme as well. I'm not sure about that. That could be a thing. But like, what games outside of games, I guess, like the Joseph Fares games that have made it their virtue.
Yeah, like Split Fiction and
Takes
Two.
Who else is doing that?
Like Little Nightmares does it, and Reanimal is going to do it. But those games are like linear experiences that like, it's basically you get to the edge of the screen and you cannot go any further unless the partner comes to the edge of the screen and then you move together.
It's built into the mechanic, isn't it?
And they're not, like you say, they're not fully 3D explorable worlds, like on a set path, basically, where you have to go to complete the goal. It's hard to do that in a thing unless you start then putting like boundaries on the mission. Like, you can't go outside of a certain street, otherwise it says return to the mission area, and then that feels like it's breaking the illusion of
and I guess
that thing.
To an extent that they do that, don't they? Whether you'll get a warning going, you're leaving the zone, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And like that sort of thing you can do, but it would be hemming it in even tighter, which feels not very GTA. And there's a version, I guess, I've played like third player games where it's only split screen once a character wanders a certain distance away from the other. But truthfully, I hate that. It's awful because you're constantly flipping between.
But the Lego games do that, don't they?
Yeah,
They, like,
full
cut it.
screen, half screen. Yeah, for a kid's game, it's kind of fun. It's all right, but it's not very satisfying. So I don't know how I feel about it as a fully co-op. You know what? Again, this is what I'm struggling with, and why we're talking about it. I just don't know the why of why you would do this. Like, why it's either fun, but how it's different, and like fundamentally how it speaks to what the game is all about. That's where I guess I'm struggling, or I've got the theory I put forward and not much beyond that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's say that it was a choice, Jason or Lucia, or both. Do you have, like, if they presented that to you and this is how you have to choose this mission or the way to play this game, do you have thoughts on which way you want to do that? You always controlling both characters to get parts of the story, or do you think you just go fully in on, like, I'm just going to play Jason for this run through. Maybe I'll play it again as Lucia.
Do my thinking face because I don't know. I think that some of that they could incentivize through the narrative and the rewards in the missions. There could be things where, like say it is like dime store missions. They're robbing banks, they're taking things, that kind of stuff. There might be missions where you go, what if, or is key information. And Jason thinks, if I keep that for myself, I'm not sure if I want to risk showing it to Lucia. So you might choose to, like, I'll keep that information and she'll never know about it. That stuff would be, it's interesting. It's just, as I say, so complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't know then, I think the way your affiliations lie are either down to like really crude and basic things like, I will only play as a man, I will only play as a woman, or depending on your sympathies, I guess, which way do you think, which way would I think I want to lean right now? But it's an unexplored territory that I'm currently not seeing the full benefit of.
Well, let's talk about the visualization of that mechanic. I've done some graphics.
Oh my word.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to make these appear on the screen, but let's see. Nathan will be able to do it through the magic of television. If I can't make it work, but how do you feel? Yeah, see, oh no, it's here.
Hello. Is this what it does in the game? Does it gets bigger, smaller? Because that's going to be annoying.
Yes. Just make it just gets really big and really small. How do you feel about this visualization of a character select wheel? Obviously, it's quite similar to GTA 5's. But I think if there was going to be a choice of having both of them, I would prefer it to be at the bottom, just for me. I played with it being at the top. I put them both at the bottom.
Yeah, I think it is. It has to bisect the imaginary halfway points. You've got one character, the other character, the middle zone, bottom or top, subject to preference.
Yeah.
That's joint. And then, that wheel mechanic it's like the winner of the way to choose your character that, various games have experimented with. So it's what Rockstar have used. I would expect that to happen again. Bottom placement, top placement, who knows? Again, choose your preference.
I mean, so yeah, that's if you were going to be Jason. I've got one if you want to choose to be Lucia.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it goes through its zoom in thing, which I think they should iron out in QA.
Yeah. And then you'll be surprised to know what the one that looks like. The one
I'm going to guess that it flashes and spins.
Yeah.
It says team up.
Oh, yeah.
That would be good.
And then if you're selecting both of them, you can just have them both on there.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
And you can flick through them. Oh, you can look.
Oh, look at that selection wheel. Bip, 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 bip.
That's good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I guess back to the actual questions and not just looking at the graphics. Do you think it will look like this, as in the tried and tested formula? Or is there another option that they can go down where it's like almost, it could just be like a simple button press. Like you don't get the character selection wheel and it says things like press down to control Jason and you just quickly press down rather than going through the old selection process.
Yeah, it could be like rather than a stick movement, a D-pad thing. Because D-pads are redundant and they're naturally, but it's truthfully a bit like this. And you still need some degree of signifier to show you're swapping, whether it's audio or visual cue.
Yes.
There still needs to be something, I think, to indicate you flip characters. They can't just do it like, because it's too disorienting. So there has to be some sort of transition moment. So I'd imagine it would be an adaptation of the wheel mechanic they've already used.
Because I guess you could just press like a button, let's say, on the D-pad, if it was just two characters.
Yeah.
If they got rid of the duel mechanic, let's say that's not in there, and it's literally you play the game as Jason or Lucia, depending on who you choose for that mission, you probably don't need this. You could get away with just tapping down.
Well, it's either or, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's as simple as that. I mean, is there a world where it's, do you want to play Jason and Lucia, or generic Bozo 6? Where like one of your hired goons used to get for the heists. That's ridiculous. Of course, you're not going to do that. But I'm just, that was a thing they sort of experimented with in the heist system where you'd recruit better people. Again, didn't really feel that material. Whether it was because I never actually went into a heist with like proper bozos, but and it did slightly set you back, but it never felt critical.
And we've talked about like the single player aspect of this and going on missions and things. The only thing that could be different if you're selecting both of them, I guess, is in free roam. Obviously, in GTA 5, you're in free roam. You're choosing one of those characters to go and do your stuff in. There's, I guess, a chance that by choosing both, they're both with you in free roam. But then, like, my follow-up question to that in our notes is that even good? Like, do you even want... Because it will be an AI-controlled companion. Yeah. Do you want that in free roam? Like, do you just want the sense of hanging out with somebody else? Like, maybe.
It's just weird. It's just weird. I don't see the benefit of that unless, again, there's some gameplay coded reason for it. Whether it's to do with, like, we've seen a little bit of, like, one character's at the wheel, the other's shooting.
Yeah.
Even then, that stuff's so fiddly and so by the sides. I don't see a real benefit for that. I'm thinking in a wider sense, like, what are the why would Rockstar do this? Apart from the story reasons, like, what are the other big games in the world offering co-op that's actually generating eyeballs and a time and attention? Like, you've talked about Fortnite having characters you can tell what to do, but Fortnite really is everyone on their own screen play with and then against each other. My kids play a lot of Minecraft, but that seems to be mostly you're on your mic, I'm on my mic, let's be in this world together. I'm just trying to think of other big games, and loads of games are multiplayer, but I mean more specifically about the sense of collaboration.
Yeah, I mean, co-op games are like co-op games in their traditional sense of two of you or more are going off to do this thing together. I mean, they're very PC heavy, like, games like Hunt Showdown and Ark Raiders and Helldivers, like all that stuff is, you can, the extraction shooters, which I guess existed back all the way back to like The Division. Those were things where you were teaming up with people for a singular goal. But again, they're all like online multiplayer games. They're not story-driven experiences, like especially when you're getting to go and do things. Like, I think just teaming up like that just makes it so chaotic that it only really works in an online environment.
Yeah, and it's like it works. There's games like games like Left 4 Dead where you're teaming up together against an AI threat or the zombies. That can work. There's this kind of asymmetric gameplay where one player is, for example, you're the monster, and the others are this, and you're more powerful, but there's more of them, and that isn't GTA. That is not GTA. And then the kind of really wacky, like this, we say, when we talked about being chained together, there is a buddy cop version of this where they're literally handcuffed together, lol. But that again is only that's one mission.
Yeah.
You can't, it's not literally like the game Chained Together where, you're going through the pits of hell attached to a chain. It doesn't make any sense for GTA.
And like you say, that's only fun for one mission. And I think that's more fun probably if you're controlling both of them. Like, again, you don't want someone like pulling in the opposite direction for you if you're literally like attached somehow. That's gonna be really frustrating. So
and it requires true co-op.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's all sorts of ways you could design something like that in theory, but it will be a big thing to pivot the entire game to co-op because somebody had a good idea for a mission where they both got handcuffs on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels really extreme. So I just feel like we're not seeing the why for this. And again, we've also got to say, it's not factual yet. Like, this is coming from a leak that feels increasingly like it's got credence. But it's not guaranteed. So we're still speculating. People watching might have far better compelling ideas for how and why this could work. But like for me, I'm a bit struggling with it in my current understanding of what GTA is.
Well, let us know about those ideas in the comments or on Twitter or via email. Dress coming up a bit later in the show. Just before we leave this topic, I wanted to talk about, as you mentioned, the mechanic of character switching. Now, obviously, GTA 5, we had the big zoom out to the map, move across, zoom back in again. That was, 12 years ago. We've seen the progress in load times, especially with things like Spider-Man, where you're basically almost instantly switching characters that are on the other side of the map. So that kind of stuff is possible. I just wondered if you have any thoughts about how that might work in GTA 6. Like, I think they're in a world where you might be able to switch and like the camera literally, like, without going up into the sky, zooms all the way across the map to the other character without any kind of loading or cutting. It just sort of goes whoosh, and then you're there. Or do you think they're going back to the...
I mean, the to zoom out on the zooming out, the reason they did that really was it was a technical cheat.
Yeah.
To buy them the loading time to like recache the game to open the new part of the world. When they moved from PS3 to PS4 to PS5, the thing that fundamentally changed was how quickly it did that. I can't remember the times now, but I remember seeing analysis of PS3 game, X seconds for the transition, PS5 game, this many seconds, it's improved. They just quickened it up. So whether they feel the need to, and I mean, also it's ridiculous. Say you're in a localized mission where you're both in the same building, it's just Lucia's one floor above or one below. It feels slightly ridiculous to go boom, boom, boom to the atmosphere and back down again.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it didn't do in 5. That was just a seamless because they were close enough.
Yes.
It was able to jump characters. So I'm sure that would be the same in 6.
Yeah.
It's just whether, they get outside of that original frame of like, if you go outside of here, we're going to have to do some loading. But with the power of PS5, which is going to tip into PS6, I imagine, it might now be possible to do that in a really cool, like, camera flies through the city and then picks up.
Yeah, they might, like you say, like a sort of post-CG, modern Bollywood, Korean cinema style wacky camera effect where it goes like woof, or it's just a cool visual effect.
Yeah.
But again, those sort of things are great the first time it happens, and very quickly you're like, I just need to see the next thing. So ultimately it's got to be functional rather than flashy, unless you build in a few like hero transitions between characters for reasons. Again, you could author, like a bespoke character switch that makes you see or show a certain thing.
Yeah.
But again, it's so complicated. I don't know how you feel, but like I'm kind of happy with where they were, just quicker, seamless. I don't want to know about it really, the transition.
Yeah. I think there's different ways of doing it visually. Like, I think they'll change it. It definitely won't just be the same thing, but in Miami now, that's like going up to the sky, moving over, coming back down again. There'll be some variation on that. But, we'll see. We'll see how they do it. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. I think it might be cool if they try and do the whole game as a one shot, like the most recent God of War game, when the camera actually never cuts. So you always, you can change, but the camera has to fly through the city to then pick up what Jason's doing. But you always, there's never any cuts. And they managed to do cutscenes in God of War really well with that technique. It's maybe played out a little bit in games now, like a few of them have done it. But it would certainly be a quite a special thing to see a GTA game do it without any camera cuts. Okay, something that we didn't talk about last week because it came out either as the show was airing or in the day following.
Yes,
was the conversations around obviously the ongoing Rockstar games versus the Union court hearings. We did report last week about the results of those preliminary court hearings, which was that the fired workers were not going to get any compensation during the trial period that is going on.
Yes.
But what actually came out after that is the interesting thing. Now, I did say last week that if and when this case gets to court, we may or may not have to hear about the things that Rockstar are saying were leaked, or could have been leaked and top secret information. Yes. And that stuff would have had to been shared with the court so they could make a decision. And then we were like, well, obviously that stuff is going to be redacted when it gets reported. However, during the preliminary hearings, there's a lot of documentation submitted by both sides. And something that has come out of that is that GTA 6's online mode might be 32 players. Now, this is according to an accidental update from the Rockstar Games versus the IWGB Union Preliminary Court Hearing transcript, which said, while these top secret documents weren't read out, they were listed in the court transcript as revealed by Chris Bratt, who makes the People Make Games YouTube channel. This was former Rockstar employees were discussing their experiences of requesting time off at the studio, being told that they, Rockstar, didn't want more than 13 people off at one time. They say, we're a team of 56 people, soon to be 60, one employee wrote in the union Slack group. A later message adds, until the end of this year, they want no more than 5 people off at a time, apparently. Now, the juicy bit, this is all reported in the GTA 6 o'clock newsletter, by the way. Gamesradar.com/newsletter. Click on the GTA 6 one. Another union member responded to this saying, absolutely no idea. They mentioned the large session that we did today being difficult to do, but that was 32 players. Not sure how that was difficult. This 32-player testing session is mentioned by another poster on the same thread. Sounds like you have multiple studios of QA testers. Surely someone can manage to organize a 32-player session and let people have their time off. So, all that being said, the GTA Online that the QA testers are currently playing appears to be 32 players, which is just like the current version of GTA Online, which is 30 players plus 2 people who are allowed to watch.
Yes.
Which, although that is the implication here, doesn't feel like, I mean, it's not a step up if this is all, factual. And presumably the thing that they are testing is a version of GTA Online. It could still be the GTA Online that we are playing today. Like, they could be playtesting that.
Yeah, that's the important distinction I wanted to make, actually, because that was in my thought process as I was writing this was, well, it could just be GTA Online. We already know that's 30 plus 2 players, 32 players. But the lawyers in court, Rockstar's lawyers in court, said they were not going to say certain things because they pertained to, they used the word top secret in a very, government, no requisition style. And there was a bit where they actually, I think, and I haven't got the actual wording in front of me. It was something like some of the leaked details include details around an unannounced online project. So again, it's not saying explicitly GTA 6, but it did sound a lot like if the nub of this case is that the workers are believed to have shared secrets around GTA 6 and financially critical information, it must be in reference to that.
Yeah.
That's the bit that I think makes it more probable this is linked to GTA 6 and hence why it was reported that way. Not just in I'm an SEO writer for a leading games website. I'd like these things to be true, so I'm going to wedge the two together. There's some weight to this within the quotes. Again, check out last week's newsletter. We've got a bit more on it. So it is potentially GTA Online or GTA 6 Online. Is it 32 player? Question mark.
And as I say, that is not a step forward in terms of where we are right now, which isn't a problem. Of course, there's loads of other improvements that are going to be made to what we assume will be that new online environment, whatever that happens to be, or just a relaunch of GTA Online as it is now. So maybe they've played around with it and said, actually 32 players is the maximum that makes sense for this kind of gameplay and these kinds of events and missions that we're going to be doing in that world. And that's what we want to stick to. I had assumed that maybe there would be a higher player count given how far we've come since the launch of GTA Online.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like what's a player count in Fortnite, for example, to benchmark it?
100.
100. Are you playing any Arc Raiders? Sorry, this is I don't know the answer to this. I'm not playing Arc Raiders, so I don't know. But like you're right. And I feel like 32 or 30 doesn't sound like a lot. And it feels like the sort of thing you would want to scale to go on the classic bigger, better, more version of reality that most people follow. It does get me thinking a little bit, might be completely off base. Again, assuming this is GTA 6 Online, is there some reason they would peg it at the same number of players as GTA Online? Because there's something we're not seeing in terms of the conversation or interchangeability between the two versions of online, where if you had GTA Online as we know it continuing on as 32 player and GTA 6 Online it's 100 players or whatever it is, maybe that creates some sort of incompatibility between the systems and the background framework, and it's not somewhere they're willing to go right now. They don't see the benefit or the upside. I don't know. But yeah, as a top line number, it's neither good nor bad. It's just, the news is it's the same as it was.
Yeah. And that's probably fine. I guess we'll see more as we get more details on it. But I mean, there's not a lot to say that we haven't said about GTA Online so far. I don't know what you guys feel in the comments or listening. Like, are you happy with 30 to 32 players, or would you like it to be more? I guess the more players you put into that, like, it's chaotic enough as it is. If you put, let's say 64, let's double it. 64 people flying around in jets eventually that want to shoot rockets at me as I'm trying to just do a race. So
the thing is, I think the interesting thing about all of this is how it relates to the actual ongoing case, the IWGB versus Rockstar, where if this is actually one of the details they saw as critical and commercially, impactful, in itself, the news is we've got exactly the same number of players as we did previously, which you could argue, and if you were the IWGB, you would say, well, that's just not news, is it? The product's staying the same. It's not. But like, you could argue down that line of saying in itself, this is not new news. It's not exciting. It's not revelatory. I guess Rockstar on the counter would go, well, it is news because it's actually 32 and we know people are going to be disappointed, and it becomes a talking point and blah, blah, blah. And I guess the problem with GTA is even the most banal leak is potentially quite seismic.
Yeah, and all top secret.
Yeah, also, and as we saw the other week, a games journalist, sort of vacillating around the point of it's not going to be delayed, maybe it will, and the misinterpretation wiped 780 million off the share price. So, the thing for Rockstar is they've got probably quite a low burden of proof to say all information is critically sensitive for us.
Yeah. Okay, well, talking about headline news, there was a load of headlines that came out this week, which is the week that we're recording this show, which pretty much all led with explosion at Rockstar North. Now, if you read that headline, you start to think, well, all kinds of things. But the actual facts are, in case you missed it, Rockstar North was hit by a small explosion and fire. This is according to officials in Scotland. The incident was reported around 5 a.m. on Monday. Fire crews were called to the incident at Berkeley House, which is where Rockstar North is based. A large number of resources responded to the scene, including 7 vehicles from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Operation Control mobilized 3 fire appliances and specialist resources to the scene, where firefighters worked to secure structural damage at a commercial building, a fire service spokesman said. Obviously, this led, as I said, to headlines of explosion at Rockstar North. Don't worry, there were no reports of casualties. All of those fire services left the scene around 9:21. Rockstar has confirmed that the incident involved a malfunction in one of the heating boilers at Rockstar North's headquarters, and local media, including the Herald newspaper, described it as an explosion which led to a small fire. Rockstar has said many thanks and reached out to those with concern, and also to the police and fire crews who were on the scene quickly to assess the situation. They also said that game development was not affected by Monday's explosion, saying, "Please know that everyone is well and our studio remains open and operational." Now, aside from that madness, I think this is it felt like such a non-story. Like, you saw the headline and I was like, oh wow, what's happened here? Like, you go through all of the permutations of what might have led to that explosion. But in reality, what's happened is a boiler has malfunctioned and like maybe blown up a bit. And like the structural damage is what would always happen when if you're in a house and a boiler blows up, some of the walls get a bit manky and like maybe like catch on fire a bit. Like it's definitely, I'm not downplaying the incident, but it's just like, as you were saying, like Rockstar have become such a massive company that a thing like if that happened in your house would be like annoying. And obviously, like a boiler blowing up, if a fire is a slightly different thing. But if the boiler stops working in your house and you don't have water for a day, you're like, oh, it's really frustrating. Now that thing, because it's happened at Rockstar, becomes like headline news in the gaming space. It's not being reported on like the national news, I don't think. But it just felt like, I imagine this kind of thing happens at companies quite a lot. Things malfunction. They have power outages, all of that kind of stuff. Don't hear about any of that stuff ever. But because it's like such a big thing that's happening in development, and I guess because they sent 7 fire engines, like people around that office would have been like, what the heck is going on in here? It just feels to me like it's like, maybe we should leave them alone for a bit.
It's too easy and tempting. And were I the editor of a website, there's a pervading narrative that like Rockstar North is on fire. And then on a day where it is, albeit briefly, literally on fire, you have to write that headline. It's preposterous, but it's playing into the public's. There's a section of the public who want that, who want to be able to retweet and go, what next? Lol. Delayed till 2036. Yeah. Like it's just bait for those types of people. But like you say, for context, it's winter in the UK. It's been quite cold. It's quite common for boilers to stop working, right? My children's primary school had a boiler failure. I will say it was reported in the school newsletter. Yeah. So it didn't make national
via
news.
An email.
Yeah, it didn't make national news, nor were there 7 fire engines. It's to a limited extent news to the people it affects. Is it national news? No. And maybe in the gap before we realised the severity of it, some people thought it was fun to speculate. Now, I did see some outlets, to be fair, like VGC, for example, came out and went, we feel like this is being misreported. Or the language around it is literally explosive when it's maybe not such a big deal. And you hear structural damage. And like you say, part of my mind is like, oh my God, it's Die Hard.
Yeah, a floor has collapsed.
Yeah, an entire floor has been rigged with explosives and blown off. Or like, it's whatever's happened. It's there's some cosmetic work which has maybe affected foundations, maybe not, but they have to assess it before they let everyone back in because that's health and safety.
Yeah.
And that's probably more what this is. But like for Rockstar, they're not catching a break at the moment.
No. And if you really wanted to like dive in 2-footed to them, you could be like, well, why is a boiler blown up? Probably because they have to, they've been overusing it in the winter months, and all those people who need to, they're making 200 more pots of tea because they're having to stay later in the office. This is not happening. This is just
no. Unless they were using the boilers to like heat the CPUs or something. Like it's just cold. Boilers blow up. This is what happens, and I think it's just really unfortunate for Rockstar North in terms of their headlines. I'm sure the IWGB workers who have been affected probably, had an extra long cup of tea that day and smiled. But it's by the sides, really, isn't it?
Couple of quick questions then from the lovely viewers and listeners in regards to last week's show. Chris via emails got in touch and said regarding Fairyland, which is like what people are calling the Disneyland parody in GTA 6. Vice City had a weapon check-in at the golf course, and Escobar International, San Andreas had well over 100 interiors. It's true they were not all entirely unique, but they are still vastly exceeded 100. Fair enough. And I think what Chris is getting at here about the Fairyland thing, when we were like, they won't be able to do it because how does that work if you're carrying guns around? Obviously, there is a way to do it, like we've seen, like they mentioned at the golf course. You just be like, you can't take any weapons in here, and the game like physically doesn't let you in there without you giving up your weapons for that period of time. There is a possibility of doing that, sure, and then everyone just has a good time riding around on the Ferris wheel or whatever there is in there. So, yes, there are gameplay mechanics in place that could remove all of your weapons for certain areas, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good solution. And in fact, the answer I was about to give leads us neatly onto the next question, because I was going to talk about the leak and how it mentioned no Disney parody, but that's literally our next question.
Yes, Red Misfit via YouTube says one of the things that could have gotten misconstrued or untrue is that there is no Disney parody, which is what we mentioned last week from those potential leaks. They said the leaker claiming we can't listen to music outside of cars, some suggestions of a Fairyland forest, which highly points to there being an amusement park of some kind. Plus, the game takes place within the theme park capital, not only the US, but of the world. So I just don't get it. Now, I think this is, you think back to the reporting around the 2022 leaks, there were some mentions of a Fairyland forest, which people then extrapolated into, well, this must be a Disneyland parody. Now, that could be true. That is a leap. It's not a big leap, but it is, a Fairyland forest could literally be a forest that people in the world of GTA 6 call Fairyland because, there's a myth that fairies are always seen in that forest. So it's locally called the Fairyland forest. I can see that happening in the same way that it could also be a Disneyland parody. But I agree with Red Misfit to an extent that Florida has so many theme parks in it. And if you're setting your game in Miami and the surrounding areas, not having some kind of theme park at least referenced or in a way where you can see it feels like a miss.
Yeah, it does, because as you say, that's literally the global capital of theme parks and adventure places, and to have nothing in the entire sweeping map, it just seems like a miss. And like you say, I previously doubted it because of the potential for disaster, but like you say, they could get around it with that check-in mechanic or some other thing, or like we said, an abandoned theme park. Even that seems totally implausible. Like, why would all the theme parks have closed down in what is otherwise a massively vibrant zombies? I mean, I guess the same thing you could say of like, where have all the children gone? Like, there's a lot of things with GTA that actually don't quite pass the reality test. But it seems to me like a big opportunity that they probably wouldn't pass up.
Yeah. Red Misfit also says, and for the music, Rockstar overtly contradicted that claim and proved otherwise with Trailer 2, Jason working out with AirPods or the GTA 6 equivalent. And in several official screenshots on the website, you can clearly see Jason and Lucia with AirPods in their ears multiple times. So I'm not sure about those claims. Now, I had a little think about this, like to do with, not so much to do with the Disneyland parody, but to do with the music in games and being able to listen to it outside of the car potentially, which is what, when we talked about it last week, they were refuting, saying that's not going to be possible in GTA 6. These leaks and things that we were talking about last week are actually from quite a number of years ago. But certainly before, the trailers were released.
Trailer 2 wasn't responding to the June leaks because they hadn't happened yet.
Yes.
So, It was probably responding more to the leaks, the big leak, the gameplay leaks, the clips, the stuff that came out from that, I would have thought.
But putting the line in there that is like just fixing some leaks, obviously we were like, that's to do with the 2022 things and all of the stuff that's come out and showing people more about the game. But it could also be correcting some of that information that they have seen leak out. And they're not just fixing the leaks in a way that going, hey, we're showing you the game now. They're also subtly going, we've seen reports of you saying that you're not going to be able to listen to music outside of the car. Well, here is us fixing some leaks by literally showing you someone wearing AirPods outside of the car. You can make the assumption that they're listening to music if you want. And therefore we have fixed some more things and speculation. Like it could be that. That's my theory.
Well,
and I'm sticking to it.
There is a world where the guy who got fired from the Lincoln office might have said the things he said. And Rockstar knew he'd said them, but they hadn't gone public yet. So Rockstar knew what was about to go into the public domain.
Yeah.
But the world didn't yet. So there's a chance that they were getting ahead of it, possibly. But I don't know. In the bigger sense, either way, characters wearing AirPods, if there's not the ability to listen to music, why even show that?
Yeah. It's
just such a weird cosmetic thing.
Yeah, you could just not have it in the game. And no one would question it because you'd be like, that's fine. They just haven't done that.
I mean, you could say they just wear them and it's cosmetic, but it's just silly then. Like what? Why? Why would you? Why? It just makes so much sense to me to have music on the go.
I think so. I agree. We're agreed on something.
Yes. I thought we agree with most things.
Yeah.
Maybe not refueling cars, but like, let's just move on from that point.
Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us via the YouTube comments below if you're listening on YouTube. If not, pop over to YouTube. Let us know your thoughts. You can also get in touch on Twitter, GTAVOclock, and via email, gtavIoclock@gmail.com. And as we mentioned, there's a newsletter that goes out every Friday, which summarizes this show and picks up some of the information that may come out in the next couple of days, which we then go on to talk about in the podcast sometimes. That is gamesradar.com/newsletter. Click on GTA 6 o'clock. We do read all the comments, so please keep them coming on. Hit that like button. And if you are on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. We are here every Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and we'll be back next week for another episode of GTA 6 o'clock.